Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pitts. Ukraine War News Update, second part thereof for the 22nd of June 2024. Let's get straight to the military aid subjects I have lined up for you. So the EU will give Ukraine almost 2 billion euros next week. This has been announced as the first tranche of the long-awaited proceeds from Russia's frozen assets. There was talk about it being given in June and then some more in July. And that seemed, I was worried that actually that wasn't going to happen and we're going to see the first tranche in July. Okay, not too much of a difference, but it's great if they can get, I believe, I had heard 1.9 billion first and then 1 point something billion in July. So 2 billion next week is going to be super useful. I don't know what they're going to put it towards. Obviously, they need to run the country. They need to keep everything running. And that's super important. They've got energy infrastructure to sort out as well. But if this is like in kind of pure cash form, the first thing I'd be thinking about doing is like, it's like payday. I've got to get down to bookies and put a bet on horses on the GGs. But actually, it's like, no, I've been paid. I've got to get down the Raytheon Mall and buy myself a couple of Patriots for the weekend. Something for the weekend, sir? Yes, 2 Patriots, please. Yeah. That's where I'd be spending that money. Our immediate focus will be on using these revenues for Ukraine's military support. So that's the answer to the question of what they'll be spending on military support. Right, we estimate that our measures would make up to 3 billion euros available this year, and we expect to make a first payment of 1.5 billion euros before the summer break. I also warmly welcome the outline deal struck last week in the G7 to provide $50 billion of loans for Ukraine using revenues from frozen Russian sovereign assets. And then later on here on the Ukraine facility, peace facility, Ukraine should receive 1.9 billion euros in pre-financing next week. So that's the one we're talking about, 1.9 billion next week. So yeah, that's what I thought, 1.9. So good news. Ukraine need that. Of course they do. And that's kind of the most free money you're going to see, like using the profits from frozen assets. You'd be hard pressed to find someone that's not against that happening unless they are overtly just completely pro-Russian. So I don't know, maybe Nigel Farage would be up for that. Netherlands, together with another country, will supply Ukraine with a Patriot system. Dutch Defence Minister Kajsa Ollongren confirmed. Previously, the Netherlands already supplied Ukraine with Patriot launchers. So Dutch have been amazing. They continue to be amazing in their support for Ukraine. They have supplied previously at least some launchers, possibly 2 sets of launchers. Then they were talking about some more components towards this, I believe. Netherlands will make 1 AN/MPQ 53 or 65 radar and 3 launchers available as part of an effort to deliver a complete Patriot battery to Ukraine. Now they need someone else to contribute an engagement control station, antenna mast group and electrical power plant. Well, that appears to have taken place. The Dutch Defence Minister says they have been successful in getting a commitment for these other Patriot components from an unidentified donor country. So that country has not come forward. And in fact, the timeline has not been announced to keep it operationally secure. Ukraine will have an additional Patriot battery coming this year, says Colby Babois. Of course, when that is, we don't know. But really good news. So when you're talking about it, Ukraine asked for 7 Patriots to help them in the immediate future. They need a whole bunch more than that, ideally, but desperately they need 7. And I was thinking, that's unlikely to happen, right? But actually, it appears that they could. So if you've got 1 from the US, 1 from Germany, this one, and 1 from Romania, and a SAMP-T from Italy, then you've got 5 that are going to be turning up at some point, one would presume fairly soon. And then you're thinking, come on, what about those 4 Pack 2 Patriots from Israel? They've got to be on the cards, and let's get some orders in to Raytheon and so on and so forth. Good news there. So we move on to Duda, who is the president of Poland. So remember, Poland has, like many countries, president and prime minister, and the 2 in Poland are from different parties. So the president is still your PIS, Law and Justice Party, that was previously ruling in Poland and was more of a right-wing party that was kind of Eurosceptic and yeah, that's where they were, but still pro-Ukraine. And then you've got a sort of centrist, centre-right, actually. Donald, although very pro-EU, it's a bit of a coalition across maybe some of the political spectrum with Donald Tusk, his coalition there, now taking over as ruling, so they control the administration. But the President Duda here saying that the US decision to prioritize Ukraine over other countries in the delivery of missiles to Patriot systems is a problem. Quote, it is always a problem when deliveries are delayed, especially when there is a modernization of the Polish army. We need to return to normal production, resume supply chains, and unfortunately see that the world has changed. So I don't know whether this is just a statement, an observation of, oh, this is obviously not ideal. Like, we've put an order in for missiles and we're not going to get them for some time because Ukraine are going to get them all. This is a problem, because we now have to think about, do we have enough stuff? What do we do with this? Or whether this is a proper complaint, like a sense of we are not supportive of what the US is doing. And I don't know. It's fairly out of context. I don't have time to look in depth at every piece of news I share with you. But yeah, the two would be very different and would reflect a very different approach from Duda there. I would hope that it's more of like, yeah, it's a bit of a problem. We need those missiles. Like, we plan for them. If we're not getting them for, I don't know how long it's going to be, then does that mean that Poland has to say, okay, we're going to look to South Korea for our air defense systems rather than US Patriot systems? Or, I don't know, is it something bigger than that? Okay, moving on. So we heard about South Korea announcing that they are going to consider giving lethal military aid to Ukraine on a direct basis rather than sort of backfilling as they have been doing previously, due to this bilateral agreement between Russia and North Korea that has enraged the South Koreans, and rightly so. It's taken them a long time to get, I guess, mobilized in this discussion, the South Koreans, but they seem to be now sitting up and paying attention in a much more explicit way. But there was still some vagueness to do with their language. South Korea will map out plans to send weapons to Ukraine depending on how Russia would react to Seoul's statement, which hinted of a review of arms support in response to the development of Russian-North Korea relations on Thursday, according to the Presidential Office Friday. It's a quote from a news source. The office added that many options concerning the weapons aid to Ukraine could be taken into consideration, and that South Korea will continue its, quote, comprehensive support of Ukraine. Seoul, however, denied the news report that it was prioritizing the export of ammunition such as 155mm artillery shells and anti-tank guided missiles to Ukraine. This came a day after South Korea's National Security Advisor Chang Ho-jin told reporters Thursday that Seoul will, quote, reconsider the issue of providing arms support to Ukraine in response to North Korea's public announcement of the pact its leader Kim Jong-un signed with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Chang did not elaborate on whether the weapons South Korea considers supplying to Ukraine are lethal or non-lethal ones. Chang also said Seoul will impose sanctions on 4 vessels, 5 organizations, and 8 individuals allegedly involved in the exchange of weapons and oil between North Korea and Russia. In response to Chang's comments, Putin said at a press conference in Hanoi, Vietnam, during his state visit, that there would be that he would make, quote, appropriate decisions that would not, quote, please President Yoon Suk Yeol. Quote, as for the supply of lethal weapons to the war zone in Ukraine, that would be a very big mistake, Putin said. So you got an escalation of rhetoric between South Korea and Russia here, but South Korea hasn't been as overt in their kind of like, right, we're going to send stuff and we're going to send it now, and it's going to be this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, we're going to consider what Russia would do, and so on and so forth. And it's, yeah, I hope it's on the stronger side of things, the South Korean intentions here, but you just don't know. Trenchelenko then gets excited about the potential for South Korea to support Ukraine. So the list of reserve American and Russian AFVs, armored fighting vehicles, says Telenko, in the Republic of Korea, that is available in addition to shells and anti-tank guided missiles below is very impressive. So the South Koreans have 400 M113s, so these are fairly outdated tracked APCs that are very useful in Ukraine. They get used for medevacs, they get used all over the shop. 400 M113s, I don't know whether South Korea still use them, but that would be very useful. 410 M48 AK-55 K1s and K2s, the 35 T-80Us and 70 BMP-3s. So you've got some old Soviet era tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. BMP-3s are the more recent ones. 70 of those would be super useful, as Tanenko says, would be useful in Ukraine. All of that stuff, fantastic. But whether that will happen, whether we'll know about it, would it be secretive? And the kind of refusal to prioritize artillery ammunition there is a bit of a kick in the shins, maybe. But these things can change. I just hope that South Korea really does come up trumps for Ukraine. Now, a company that has done an awful lot for Ukraine is Rochelle, run by, I believe, an Israeli guy who's married to a Ukrainian in Canada. So it's a Canadian company that is not only given now, it was 1,000 senators, now 1,500 of these Rochelle senators. You can see there these APCs that can come in different forms. You can get medical varieties, you can get different versions of the senator. That's really good news that now over 1,500 of these have been sent to Ukraine. They're also doing a good job of kind of advertising their wares, and I think they're now getting sales. I mean, this is the whole nature of the conflict in Ukraine, that it is one big advertising. It's one big expo in a sense for the military industrial complex, and so they are, it's an investment, isn't it? So if a company like Rochelle says, well, we're gonna really help out Ukraine, and we're gonna actually provide some of these off our own back, or whatever it is, we'll give them preferential rates. That is, as well as having a moral component, I think it has a moral component here with Rochelle because of their connection. So they employ hundreds of Ukrainian refugees in Canada. Canada has the biggest Ukrainian diaspora community in the world, I think, and a lot of refugees have gone to Canada, and they are employing a number of them at Rochelle, which is absolutely fantastic. So they have a moral dimension, but also, they need to make money because otherwise they cease to exist. And so they do get an incentive as well to support Ukraine in the way that they are. And it's great that when people do the right thing and they get a benefit for doing the right thing other than just a kind of moral pat on the back, then that's great, because that's what we want. We want rewards for doing the right thing in this very transactional world, where people aren't making stuff for free. Okay. The French defense company Thales announced it will open a branch in Ukraine. 3 agreements have been signed, one to create an enterprise for supplying communication equipment, radar, electronic warfare, and air defense systems, a second for the maintenance and training of Ukrainian military on electronic warfare systems, and a third for developing an attack drone in collaboration with a Ukrainian company. So Thales, which is a huge defense company, is following suit of players like Rheinmetall, I believe UAE, sorry, not UAE, BAE Systems, and some of the, I think there's an American one now, has agreed to set up in Ukraine. This is all good news. And Ivana Stradner, a Balkans expert here, says, don't get too excited. Serbia plays both sides and does weapons deals with anyone for dollars, whether it's Russia, China, Iran, or any other country. It's purely business, while strategically the Serbian government still cooperates closely with Russia and China in security matters. What's this in reaction to? Well-informed senior expert on Ukraine NATO told me Serbia has sold between 700 and 900 million euros worth of shells to Ukraine, supplying 30% of all artillery shells in its war defending from Russia. If this stands, one can say in this, Vucic brought indulgences from the West. This is very similar to Slovakia, and even with Fico in charge, it's now trying to bring previous defense minister, is it defense minister and foreign minister? They're trying to bring criminal charges against them for providing MiG-29s to Ukraine. It's absolutely outrageous what's going on in Slovakia at the moment. But even they are like, yeah, but we'll happily sell stuff to Ukraine, even though we're kind of giving all this public rhetoric in support of Russia. We'll still sell. And honestly, as I said before, I will repeat myself here. This is absolutely logically incoherent. So you can't say it is bad that we support Ukraine. We need to stop this war. Essentially, give all the rhetoric that's pro-Russia. If you genuinely believe that, then to say, but we're okay with selling stuff to Ukraine to support our arms industry, that's like saying, murder is really bad, but I'm going to sell this knife that I know is going to be used in a murder. Like, what are you doing there? It just doesn't make much sense. It's like, if you believe this is really bad, you don't say it's really bad unless money's involved. If money's involved, we're okay to support Ukraine. But just in terms of words, we won't support Ukraine, or we won't give military assistance to Ukraine, but we'll sell it. We won't give it because it's wrong to help them do this, but we'll sell it to them. It's just so, like, obviously mercenary, but throwing their own moral values out the window. Now, I think those moral values are wrong. Don't confuse what I'm saying here. But it's just a complete double standards in a way that Slovakia approach how they support Ukraine or don't. And the same with Serbia. It's like they're strong on the rhetoric, but under the radar, they're sending 30% of their artillery shells to Ukraine. Because, hey, let's make a pretty penny on that. They're in high demand at the moment. We can command a good price. So, yeah. As he goes on to say, note some types of artillery shells, not all, of course. But if it's true that Serbia has sold almost 1 billion in ammo to kill Russians, it adds a new layer of cynicism to Serbian professed brotherhood with Russia. And that's the point. It's like, yeah, we're mates with you. We totally agree with what you say, Poots. And by the way, here's some stuff to kill Russians. It's kind of weird. Right, news outlets report an explosion at a thermal sorry, that's not supposed to be, that was an added thing. Okay, I'm just going to let you know this because I found this out just now. An explosion is just happening in Kyiv at a power plant there, but no air raid, so don't know what's going on. Probably something I'll deal with tomorrow. Anyway, getting on to where I was supposed to be going, which is, this isn't military aid or production, but this is, I think, important. I talked about this before. Okay, what's the context? So, Ukraine, as being a former Soviet republic, was a user of a particular gauge of railway. So the Soviets have a different gauge of railway to Ukraine, which is why, so when I went to, and when anyone goes to Ukraine, you can't fly into Ukraine, so you have to go either by road or by railway. And if you go by railway, you have to stop at a place in Poland called Chelm, where you switch. If you're on the train from Europe, you stop at Chelm and you switch train because you have to get onto a different gauge to then go into Ukraine. Ukraine needs European gauge railway in order to have seamless trade between the two. Now, if they're going to do more trade between Europe than they will do between Russia, which obvious at the moment, they probably need to change their entire rail system to go onto the European gauge. One way, this is a particular problem when you have these huge hoppers full of grain. So you get all these hoppers full of grain to the Ukrainian border, and then you have to transfer all that grain from one hopper to another hopper with a different gauge on. So now Ukraine has been producing their own dual gauge rail cars that I presume the rolling stock just change the width of their axles as they get onto to near the European borders. So yeah, they're producing dual gauge grain rail cars in Lviv for the first time ever, and that's awesome. That will have a really big impact on the efficiency of their grain exports. So the railway will be competing with the grain corridor going down the Black Sea. The Black Sea routes, the shipping is much more efficient. You can put an absolute ton of, obviously more than a ton, of grain onto these big boats and then send them off, and economies of scale, and it's cheaper to do it that way than put them on the railway and not have half as much, and then it's more costly. So you need to bring down the cost of the rail transport, and this will do that. Okay, a Russian drone. So we go, I know what that other one was supposed to be. It's a Ukrainian drone. I'm going to find that now. So anyway, a Russian drone here, you can see with an AK-74, so the more recent Kalashnikov rifle. We have seen Ukrainians develop drones that can carry machine guns and have seen them in use as well, actually on the battlefront. And here the Russians are doing similar as well. Let's go to where I was going to, what I was going to show you, which was a Ukrainian drone. Hopefully it's near the top of my list here. That was it. It was a Ukrainian drone that can carry an absolute ton of IEDs on it. So normally with first-person view drones or drones carrying IEDs, they can carry sort of 2.5 kilogram weight. So they carry, here it is, they carry a warhead, an RPG-7 warhead, but sometimes they are dropping grenades. So the lighter the grenades, the more you can carry. So I suppose there's a couple of things you can do. You can improve the explosive capabilities of an individual IED so that it's lighter but has the same punch, and then you can carry more of them. Or you can improve the carrying capacity of the drone, or both. Here we have a drone that has 9 IEDs on it, which I think is, fairly incredible. And it means that obviously you can do more damage with the same drone. So this can go out and drop 9 IEDs and take out, you either drop multiple on, because if you've only got one and you miss the tank, then that's a bit of an issue. If you've got 9, then you can do more damage, or if you've got troops that spread out, then one might take out one, but you've got another 6 people there. Well, now you can drop more, so it's more likely that these munitions don't look like they'll be able to take out a tank, you would have thought, but they're probably more anti-personnel. Anyway, development of that drone capability there, and you're going to be seeing this across the whole spectrum of drones. It's just a consistent attempt from both sides to gain a competitive advantage over the other side in terms of what drones can do and how well they can do it. Anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. It's going to be a very busy day for me going forward now. I have friends over, because I'm so cool, I've got some friends over to play some games tonight, and so I might struggle with my geopolitical video a bit later, but you know me, I say that and still pump it out. But I really appreciate all your support, guys. Take care.